All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started since it's about 4 minutes past. So welcome everyone. Let me turn this off for right now. So hopefully you can all see me and everyone can hear me okay. Before we get started, if anybody has any questions or anything they want to add throughout the presentation, you can go ahead and either unmute yourself or you can type in the chat. Either works fine for me. And then so I'll open the chat so I can just see if anyone says anything to me. So is anybody here already a member of the Littoral Society? Some of you, wonderful.
Yes.
Great. So we thank you for being a member. I'm just going to give a little bit of background information on the American Littoral Society, and then we'll jump right into it. So my name is Nicole Haines, and I'm the Education Director with the American Littoral Society. So I handle exactly what my title is, education. I work out of our headquarters, which is in Sandy Hook in Highlands, New Jersey. And what I do is I teach about a whole number of things related to the environment, but I really focus on mostly marine ecosystems and anything kind of based around the coast. And I'll teach kids from as young as they can understand me all the way up to adults, as you can see today, since we're having a workshop geared towards adults. But then we also do advocacy work. So our advocacy work is based around, say, access to clean water. Everybody wants clean water to drink, I hope. And also access to public beaches. So for instance, a lot of beaches along New Jersey have been privatized due to surf clubs popping up or just people with larger houses buying out that land and building their house right there. So then those sections of the beach become closed off to the public, so we can't enjoy it. We don't want that to happen all the way down the coast. I know I would be completely heartbroken. So we fight for access to public beaches. And then we also do a lot of absolutely wonderful restoration work. If you guys are familiar with the creature horseshoe crabs, they're very important to us, not only for just the ecosystem, but we use their blood in some of our medicine testing. So we restore beaches for horseshoe crabs to come up on and lay their eggs and mate. That's usually in South Jersey region. We also tag them. So as we're able to get more volunteers to come out and help out, it would be awesome to see some of you guys out there tagging horseshoe crabs if that's what you're interested. And then lastly, we have a wonderful fish tagging program. So our fish tagging program consists of over 1,000 members along the East Coast. You go out on your own time. You can tag fish that are mostly local species. So we look for like striped bass, flounder, all of those. And then you'll send in the information. So say where you caught the fish, how big it was, what kind of fish, how heavy, anything along those lines. And we put that into a database and we share it with other fisheries. So we can kind of figure out what's going on out there in the ocean. Let's see. What was the question? Will you please post a link to join in the chat? I'm not sure what that means. If I was just saying before, if you have any questions, you can go right ahead and type into the chat. So the chat should be available for you to click on, most likely at the bottom of your screen. So we're gonna hop right into it. Goodbye to my face. Okay, everybody. So why talk zero waste? So we're going to talk about zero waste because we got to this point for certain reasons. Oh, a link for membership. Yeah, absolutely. I can post that in a little bit. So we have to kind of talk about a zero waste lifestyle because of how we've come from the start. For instance, plastic production didn't just kind of pop up out of nowhere. It mass produced as we more so hit around World War II era. But it started all the way back at the beginning of the 1900s with smaller things. We went to vinyl, so a lot of people enjoy their records. And then all the way up to the 30s, where we kind of created this type of plastic that's used in much more mass production. So like you can see here, water bottles, and really just anything. We created this kind of system where it can mold things into whatever we need to create. And that has turned into what we see in this picture here on the end. which is unfortunately a lot of plastic and a lot of garbage. No bueno. So since we created all this plastic, why can't we just recycle it all, right? That would be a great option. So we all know and love this recycle symbol, but does it really hold meaning anymore? Not quite so much. So as we can see in the picture, you don't really need to know what any of these types of plastics exactly are, but overall, less than 9% of plastics are recycled. So that's a really, really small number. And most places, depending on where you live, will only accept number one and two. So that's going to include just kind of like plastic bottles, soda bottles, water bottles. And then it will also include sometimes larger plastic jugs, maybe like laundry detergent jugs. But the rest of it is not so much recyclable. And there's a few different reasons why. So sometimes they are a mix of different kinds of plastics. Sometimes they are contaminated or they're too difficult to sort. And then also sometimes there's really just no market to recycle it. So it can actually be cheaper for companies to just create virgin plastic rather than actually um, recycle their plastic that they've made prior. So a lot of larger corporations, they will lobby for this symbol on their products for so that people think that they're recyclable, or at least they're hopeful. Sometimes people call it wish cycling. And also they'll lobby for recycling programs, even though they know that in the end, it's not really a viable option, unfortunately. So when we don't recycle these types of products, where do they end up? They end up in landfills. Sometimes they are burned and then they release really harmful chemicals that are absolutely not good for people to breathe in. Or they'll end up in our ocean, which will turn into microplastics. So we're going to talk about the 5 R's. So typically people will kind of look at 3 different R's, but I like to bring in 2 others. So as we can see on the top here, the first one is just refuse. So if we're out at an event and they're offering some kind of free item, what we're going to want to do is really think, am I going to use this item? Is it really just going to end up in my trash in, say, a week or a month or anything along those lines? So just kind of pause and think, do I need this? Then we're going to go ahead and try and reduce what we already have. So we're going to want to reduce anything in our house that maybe we don't really use, so we can either sell it, donate it, find a proper home for it. And then we have reuse slash repurpose. So with that, we can say we use a jar of salsa, a glass jar of salsa. Then we're like, I want to use this to store maybe cotton swabs in, or I want to make my candle out of this jar. So we can kind of reuse that, repurpose it, give it a new life. Then if we've kind of gone through all of those different options, what we're going to want to do is recycle. So we can figure out kind of what our municipality takes, because everybody is different. So depending on where you live, they might take, like I said, numbers 1 and 2, but not any of the other ones. But I'll talk about a program later on where we can figure out ways to recycle much stranger items of plastic. But the best thing to do if you don't know if it's recyclable is to actually just go ahead and throw it in the garbage. Because if we're putting it in the recycling and it's ending up with other items that should be there, it can just kind of cause a lot of delay and even problems at recycling facilities. So like if we're putting plastic bags in, they can be getting caught in machines and then causing a lot of issues. And then lastly, we have rot. So rot is just a way to say composting. And composting is actually a lot easier than many of us may think it is. So with composting, we do it at my own home, and we actually just have a either bowl or kind of an airtight container that we keep on our counter. And as we're making food throughout the day, we'll throw different food scraps in there, avoiding kind of meat and dairy type things, oils and greases as well. So we'll put it in there for the day. And then in my backyard, we have a larger compost bin we made out of recycled pellets that will just dump everything into there. But what we need to make sure is that we have brown matter that goes along with our green matter. So our green matter is our food scraps. And our brown matter is anything from leaves, grass clippings, twigs, I can't talk, hay or straw. And we're going to want to have more of that brown matter than our green matter. But if we do not have a backyard, say, to put all this in, there are companies where they will take your compost away for a small fee, and they'll bring it to a place where they'll compost it and say use it at a farm. And I think I touch on that a little bit later. So then we're going to talk about our goals and things to consider. So for instance, actual zero waste, having absolutely no waste.
What am I doing? Look at her face. What am I doing?
Gonna make sure people. Okay, we're good. Actual zero waste is really not possible. We're always going to have some form of waste. That's just kind of how life works. So it's just a term that became popular, but we're not actually telling people you cannot have any waste. That's not how it works. So now that we have that in our minds and we're not stressing on, having little to zero waste, we just really want to do the best that we can. So this term, it became popular and now it's just kind of what we roll with. But we're really just looking to reduce our waste, to consume less, live more sustainably, and then live more in tune with our environment. So what I like to tell people is let's do it one step at a time. If we decided that we want to go from being a full-on meat eater to going vegan, most likely we're not just going to do that overnight. We're not going to wake up the next day and be like, all right, I'm going to eat vegetables and tofu every day, all day, and forget meat. So it's easier to kind of just switch one step at a time. Maybe start with something that you know will be easy, like having, say, a reusable water bottle that you get used to bringing around with you. That could be one easy step that you try out. Overall, it may cost a little bit more upfront to buy these items that are reusable, but in the long run, it will save you a lot of money and save the environment. Who doesn't love that? Then we also want to make sure that we are encouraging others. So there'll definitely be people in your life that maybe are a lot more wasteful and aren't really aware of the different issues that lie with each kind of thing that we don't think about. But we don't want to be shaming them, because then maybe one day when they decide to be more environmentally friendly, they may not turn to you to ask for help because we weren't really super helpful in the beginning. It's never a great way to get somebody to join your team to shame them. So let's avoid that. And then I always like to ask people, if we had to hold on to all of our trash, where in the world would we put it all? We would have houses, basements, attics, backyards, apartments full of trash. It would be incredibly unfortunate and disgusting and hideous. So we're lucky that we have these kind of systems that take them out of our lives. But if we didn't, and we really were forced to figure out a way, then here I am to offer you some tips. And like I said, I'm here to offer solutions. I'm not a perfect zero waste model myself, so I'm just here to help out. And I encourage personal research, and also would love to hear your stories and your journeys along the way. I don't know why we zoomed in on this kid. All right, so a great way to start is to do a trash audit. So this is a way to look at what exactly we are throwing away. We can go ahead and straight up dig through our trash, which would be such a blast. Not really. So let's not dig through our trash, but maybe just kind of keep a tally sheet as we're throwing things away. All right, what are we throwing away? So this person, this came from a blog called goingzerowaste.com, and she made a tally sheet of what she threw out. So for instance, what she threw out a lot of was paper towels. And then second off was food scraps. So something that can be a great way to start is take a look at what you're throwing away the most of, and maybe start there if it's viable for you. Because then you'll be able to make a big difference from the start. It'll get you really excited. You'll see a noticeable change. And then who does not love instant gratification? So a great swap for paper towels and an easy swap could just be, hey, do we have old t-shirts lying around that we could maybe use to clean up our messes, or buy some cheap bar rags from a store, or just old rags that we have in general. That's a great way to switch over. So the trash audit is an awesome way to get started. And I see a question: in this time of wanting to support local restaurants with takeout, what can we do about the containers? So I talk a little bit later about what we can do with kind of taking action. But for instance, if we want to do without containers, if you want to take your own personal step, you can bring your own container with you and just, fill it up as you know that maybe you're not going to finish your meal today. Just kind of keep one in your car. But as a bigger step to take, we can start to talk with our local town's environmental commission, see what we can do about getting bans put together, talking with our local government. And it can be kind of intimidating to go right towards speaking with our local government. So that's why I kind of suggest going to maybe your environmental commission or committee first and talking with them and seeing kind of what advice that they have. Great question. Okay, looks like we gotta go back to home. So now we're gonna go straight into our sustainable swaps. So I like to start with things that are on the go. Let's see if I can put this on my face. Oh, no, it's not working the way I want it to. So for on the go, I have a bunch of different items listed here, and everyone can still see everything okay, nice and clear and big. So for this, we have, first off, just a tote bag that we can take with us instead of using a plastic bag. So I have some right here. I'll be showing you guys some things. So here's a tote bag that I have. I keep a bunch of them in my car so that when I go out to a grocery store or just really shopping in general, I have this with me and I don't have to worry about taking a plastic bag. Then as far as if we're going to the grocery store, they have all those plastic produce bags. So we're gonna wanna go ahead and use just a reusable, this one's cloth, so I think it's cotton. We can put our produce in here, but they sell many different options online for produce bags, different sizes as well. And they're just easy to clean. So like if it gets a little dirty from the fruits or vegetables, you can throw them straight in your washer. And they're, like I said, very easy to clean. And at the end of this, just so you guys know, I'm going to send everyone an Excel sheet with lists of everything that I talk about. So it will have different tabs to it. So the first tab will be, say, books that are great to read for going more sustainably. The next tab will be blogs to look at online. The next tab will be where to buy things online, separated by category. And then after that will be where to buy things in person. I mostly just have places listed in New Jersey because that's where I'm located. But if you know of other places, email me and I'll add them to my list. So you guys will all get that at the end. Then we have this green thing here is what we call a stasher bag. So I have one right here. This stasher bag is a reusable silicone bag, and it is really great because you can throw it straight into your dishwasher if it gets dirty. You can put it in your microwave, your fridge and your freezer, your stove top, and in your oven, which is pretty wild. So you can actually cook inside of it. But these things I like to use to put like snacks in, or even just anything I need to carry with me. So if I want to like put all my makeup in here or something. But mostly we use it for food and we take it for on the go. So you could also use this if you have leftovers at a restaurant. You want to like throw all your extra French fries in here. Go right ahead. As far as cutlery goes, we have bamboo cutlery. So right here, I just have a little nice package of it. So there's a little carabiner on it. So you can clip it onto, say, a belt loop, a purse, a bag, a backpack, anything. And it comes with fork, spoon, knife, and even chopsticks for those of you that are super into sushi. It's very handy. Then we have, like I said, a reusable water bottle. The metal thing right here is just a reusable food container. So this one's metal, but if we have Tupperware at home that works for us, I suggest to still use it. Then I have a coffee container for on the go. So right now, places may not accept them. It kind of is dependent. Sometimes the bigger chains are a little bit harder to have them accept your reusable coffee cup. So if you have a great local place that you like to go to and you kind of create a relationship with them, sometimes that's more ideal for being able to use your own coffee mug. My favorite cutlery for on the go, which is very small, like the size of my palm, is this little spork that folds out. You just unfold it, slide it down, voila. We have a nice spork to use. This is my favorite because it's so small. Then we have something called final straw. So this purple looking thing up top. I think I have one in my bag here, hopefully. Yes. The one I have right here is like a coral color. But this is a little straw. So if you're somebody that really likes to use straws, but kind of carrying the long metal straw is a little annoying, this is smaller and it does come with a little keychain part to it. So you open it up and you pull the straw right out. It unfolds. So these are really handy, very neat, easy to clean. It actually comes with all the cleaning supplies inside of this tiny case. So this is a drying rack. And then around the bottom here is the squeegee that you would put through it. So let's see. And it's just wrapped around. And this all fits into this tiny little case. But if you're carrying around some kind of cutlery like this, you could also just put a straw in there with a straw cleaner as well. So that's for on the go. If anybody has any questions, like I said, unmute or chat, go in the chat. Then we're going to go on to laundry. So laundry, we don't need a whole lot. So at my house, we like to use wool dryer balls. I love these things. I bought them over a year ago, possibly 2 years at this point. And these will just take the place of dryer sheets. So a lot of dryer sheets will have a lot of unknown chemicals to them. And I would just prefer to use things that I know what's in them. This is just made from, the one on here is comes from New Zealand. So it comes with like 6 of them. I got mine from Trader Joe's for $4 to $5. So not too crazy. And then you really don't have to worry about buying them again. You can also put essential oils on the dryer balls to make your laundry smell a little nice if you miss like a nice scent to them. As far as laundry detergent goes, there's different options. So we have right here, this is the Simply Co. It's based out of Brooklyn. This woman, Lauren Singer, came up with it. It's just a really simple laundry detergent with a baking soda base. And she'll maybe add different scents to it depending on what people want. But even like Arm & Hammer will sell detergent in stores in a cardboard box. So if you want to stick to just still buying it, say like in ShopRite or something like that. But there's plenty of options online if you were to Google this. And like I said, it will also be on my Excel sheet. But this is a great way to avoid those giant plastic jugs that we might not be able to recycle that are full of chemicals in our laundry detergent. And I know a lot of people have like sensitive skin. So it can be really irritating to wash your clothes in that and then have it on your skin. Soap nuts can also be 100% organic. Yeah, absolutely. Soap nuts is a great way for a laundry alternative. And then as far as stains go, they usually sell, stain removers in the plastic bottles. So what we can do is they sell different kinds of stain sticks, or there's just solutions that you can look up online and make, whether you're using like baking soda or vinegar or anything along those lines. When I wash like my whites, I'll use distilled white vinegar, and that kind of helps make my clothes a little brighter. So that's a great way. So now we're heading into the bathroom. So for bathroom, there's a lot of different things that we can use. We have in the top left corner here, just something as simple as a bamboo toothbrush. And then at the end of its life, we can go ahead and compost it. Then we have different options for toothpaste. So everything's going to kind of depend on what you like and what works best for you. So up top, we have David's toothpaste, which comes in a metal tube, and you would have to recycle that at the end of its life, but you would have to clean it out. So you'd have to make sure you do that. Then we have below the toothbrushes, we have Bite toothpaste. So what that is it's a toothpaste that you pop a tablet into your mouth, bite into it, and then it would start kind of foaming up like normal toothpaste would. So if that's kind of weird for you, you can buy powder toothpaste, also typically comes in a glass jar, or you can buy just regular toothpaste that will come in a glass jar. So just avoiding the tube overall. And like I said, whatever works best for you, whatever you feel comfortable with. And definitely give it a few more tries than just once. Sometimes it takes like 3 to 5 tries to get used to something or to decide if you like it or not. So I would just suggest more than once. Then for mouthwash, down at the bottom here, we just have a glass jar with tablets that you pop in with some water, swash around. But then if we can find mouthwash that comes in, say, a glass jar that we can repurpose or recycle, that's always more ideal. This G Organics black kind of wrapping right here is actually just floss. So this floss is compostable and comes in cardboard box, so you can recycle or compost that. Then the jar is glass, and you can order refills for it through a store called Package Free online, or probably just through their website, G Organics. On the bottom here, this is kind of a funky thing. So if some of you have a toothbrush with like little bumps on the back of it to kind of clean your tongue, this device here on the bottom is what you call a tongue scraper. Basically just does the same thing that the bumps on the back of your toothbrush do, but I just go ahead and use the actual bristles of the brush, so I don't need a bunch of weird contraptions in my bathroom. And then we have these reusable facial rounds. So I think I have one right next to me. These are great for if you just want to kind of cover it in a face wash and wash your face, or if you're someone who wears makeup and you want to take your makeup off. They make them in a bunch of different patterns depending on what you find online. So if you want like cactuses on them or flowers, but mine are very plain. And then if you like are taking off mascara, they might get a little dark, but you just run them through the laundry with your clothes. And these will take the place of, the plastic tubes of cotton facial rounds. Then as far as taking kind of like makeup or something off of your face, I've used coconut oil, and that typically I can just get in a glass jar. Works great. And then I just make sure that I rinse it off once I'm done, so there's no leftover oil, just as if I was using a makeup remover. On the bottom, we have a cardboard tube of deodorant. So this is a company by Native. There's a bunch of different companies that do this. So some companies make more just sustainable deodorant, like without aluminum, but they don't necessarily have that compostable packaging. This company was able to incorporate both, but deodorant's really finicky for people. So you have to kind of find what works for you. I've gone through a few different brands to see what I like best. So it's just kind of trial and error. And then as far as like face wash goes / face cream, I have up in the top right corner, this is just a bar of soap that's, it has tea tree and charcoal in it. So that's typically good for a lot of people's faces. We have this at my house, but it depends on your skin type. You can kind of see what works for you. The face cream just comes in a glass jar, so we can repurpose or recycle. Then as far as if you like to put face masks on, a company called Lush makes face masks in these little Tupperware container-like things. And when you collect 5 of them, if you bring it back to the store, you get a free face mask. So they kind of have an incentive program so that they can reuse their containers, and then you get something free in return for being eco-friendly. And then lastly, on the bottom here, we have something called Last Swab. So Last Swab is actually a reusable Q-tip. So you would just kind of use it, clean out your ear, even though you're technically not supposed to. I think that's what they say. And then you would just rinse it off under some warm water with soap, and then you can go ahead and reuse it. And they make some with like little bumps on it to, I think, use for inner ear, and then one without bumps that you can use to kind of like touch up makeup around the eyes. And I see a question, what brand of bamboo toothbrush do you recommend? I've heard that only Brush with Bamboo sells bamboo toothbrushes that are completely compostable. Right, so depending on the brand, not every brand makes the bristles with compostable bristles. So you kind of just have to read. There's so many brands out there now that make bamboo toothbrushes. So if you find a type of bamboo toothbrush that you like, just kind of see in the description what it's made out of. And if you're looking to fully compost it, if it is made out of nylon, then you're gonna have to like cut those bristles off and throw that in the garbage, which is still better than throwing an entire toothbrush in the garbage. So it could be one step towards being better. But there's a lot of different brands that kind of do both. But yeah, Brush with Bamboo is a good company. So then in the bathroom, we also shower there. Hooray. So as far as showering goes, there are different options for washing your hair. So we have a shampoo bar and a conditioner bar. So I really like using shampoo bars, but because I have a lot of hair and my hair is really thick, conditioner bars do not work for me. My hair will just turn into a giant knot. So that I do not use, but I will use shampoo bars. Lush makes them. I think Whole Foods now sells them, and lots of different companies online sell them if you were to just Google it. But they work kind of the same way that shampoo would. You would take the shampoo bar, kind of rub it on your hair, and I have one right here actually. This one is from Lush. There you go. I've had this for a while, so it's broke a little piece off. But it just kind of looks like a bar of soap, and you would rub it around on your head. It would start to foam up like normal shampoo would, and then you go ahead and wash your hair like any normal day. But if you have maybe thinner hair or just find a good conditioner bar that works for you, I know a lot of people that do like them. I just personally don't use it. Then on the bottom here, we have shampoo, conditioner, and body wash that comes in refillable metal containers. So this is from a company called Plain Products. And depending on where you live, there may be stores that offer these kinds of things. So for instance, there's a store in Summit, New Jersey called Sustainable House, and they have a bunch of different shampoo, conditioner, and body wash options that you can even go and bring your own container or get a container like this and go there and refill it. So depending on where you live, you might be near something, or you can just go ahead and order online. As far as shaving in the shower goes, there are a few different razor options. So I have the leaf razor right here. So this is all metal. And what you do is you would unscrew this little toggle on the top here. Let's see if it'll open. And then the whole razor in the front opens up. I think I didn't screw it enough. There we go. So this will open up. And what you do is you just replace the blades as they get dull. And you can send the blades back to the company and they will recycle those blades. And then you can just order more and they'll come in like a thin paper that you can either compost or recycle. But like I said, some of these things are a little pricey. So for instance, this, I had to kind of save up for a while to buy. This cost me $80. And I bought it through the online store package free, and I waited for a coupon. So I waited for a 20% off coupon. So I was able to make it a little bit more affordable. But as a better first step, if you can't afford that, I would say buy, say, something like a Venus razor that you can just pop the head off and throw that out instead of an entire disposable razor. So that's one step until maybe you can afford something like this. Then the other razor you see here is what we call a safety razor. So that one just most likely does not have a pivoting head. So it's just your personal preference, whatever you like best. Then on the bottom here, we have a pumice stone. So this is just kind of to help out with smoother skin, mostly around the feet area. And it's made, this one is volcanic rock. So it kind of just disintegrates as you use it. And then once it's done, you just have a rope that you can go ahead and compost. Up top, we have a sponge, natural sponge, and then a loofah, both natural, so they can be composted at the end. So that's in place of, say, like a, what do you call it? Synthetic sponge. And on the bottom here, we just have bar soap. So my sister actually just started making her own soap, and it was a lot easier than I expected. But not everybody's looking to kind of homestead every single thing that they want to use. So you can find plenty of different places that sell bars of soap. I think Whole Foods even just sells it without any packaging at all, which is nice. And I just typically prefer to use soap that I know everything that's in it, because other soaps will dry out my skin a whole lot. So that should kind of cover everything as far as shower goes. And then I always just like to touch on this, but I'm not going to talk too long on it. This is more so personal research and preference. So as far as menstrual products for women go, there's something as simple as just using cardboard tampons, so that could be thrown into a compost at the end, or we can go ahead and use reusable cotton pads. There is something called a Diva cup. That's a brand actually, but it's just a silicone cup that's used in place of a tampon. And then at the bottom here, we have reusable period underwear. So you would just throw it into the wash at the end of its life. So that's really personal preference. And I encourage research on each of those items if you're kind of looking to switch away from more wasteful items when it comes to menstrual cycles. So now we're going to go into kitchen. So kitchen can be, in my opinion, the hardest because we do so much in there. We clean, we cook, we have all our food, we have to preserve it. So there's a lot that has to go along with kitchen. But what we're looking for is really just progress, not perfection. So don't overwhelm yourself. Like I said, one step at a time. Something that's really good to do is to just get into the habit of meal prepping. If we have time on the weekend, or if we want to take one weeknight and kind of meal prep for the rest of the week, and then really plan out our menu before we go ahead and shop. So we know where we can go to get, say things in bulk, what we can do to kind of avoid getting food that comes in plastic packaging. We're probably going to still buy food that comes in plastic packaging, but if we can just minimize it, then that's awesome. So for instance, if we're somebody that likes to eat meat, if you have someone or place nearby where you can kind of develop a relationship with a local butcher, bring your own container and they can cut a piece of meat and put it in there for you rather than having it wrapped in plastic sitting on like the styrofoam. That may be a little harder, but if it's something you're willing to try, go for it. Same thing with a bakery. If we want to make a relationship with a local bakery and we go and get our bread not wrapped in plastic, we kind of bring a cloth bag or something like that. That's an option. We want to try and buy in bulk when we can. So for instance, Whole Foods is always a great option. They have a lot of different bulk things, whether it's like nuts, seeds, grains, pasta, anything along those lines. And then, I mean, these people have like gorgeous pantries. I don't expect anyone to have a kitchen that looks like this. I know we definitely don't, but it is nice to look at. But yeah, you can go ahead and like label your different jars that you're keeping your bulk items in. Like I said, when we talked about jars before, this is how we can repurpose them and we can bring them with us to the store. So that's why kind of prep ahead of time is important. And then they would just kind of weigh your jar prior to weighing it with anything you're filling it with. So it's called like a tear weight. Then if we like to drink beer or wine, we can go ahead and support local wineries, local breweries, and fill up our bottles or our growlers. That's always awesome. And I mean, nowadays, both of those things are really popular places to go to when we cannot go to do all the normal things that we used to. A lot of those places have big outdoor areas, and then it's just a nice way to get outside, maybe spend time with family members or a close friend and enjoy a beverage. But then we also want to go ahead and buy as much as we can from local business. It's always great to support local businesses. As far as water goes, we can just fill up our water from the tap. And for the most part, we're living in New Jersey, so a lot of our tap water is completely fine. You can look at reports online. If you do not feel comfortable with that, you can go ahead and buy yourself a filter, because a lot of actually bottled water companies just fill their bottles of water from tap. So there's many different brands that do that. And the ones that don't are unfortunately depleting water sources in different areas of our country or the world. So I try my best not to support water bottle companies. I am very against that. But if you do not have safe water at home, I understand. But if you do, go ahead and buy a filter. Brita makes easy filters that you can have in a pitcher. You can even just buy like activated charcoal and drop it into a pitcher, and that's going to do the same thing that a lot of Brita filters will do. Or you can get a more intense filter that will kind of filter out more different kinds of toxins or bacteria. Then lastly, we can buy our eggs in the kind of paper recyclable material that we see here and throw that into our compost bin. And we can try and kind of make our own dressings or juice here and there when we want to. So when I have salad, I just kind of mix a little bit of olive oil with balsamic, and that's just what I eat with my salad. And those are both in glass bottles. So that's easier for me. So we're going to touch a little bit on coffee and tea. I made a whole separate slide for it because I know people are real big coffee drinkers. I'm not a fan of coffee, but I do like tea. So we have a bunch of different options to avoid using plastic. We have in the top left corner something called Chemex. So kind of looks like an hourglass. It's made of glass. And you can put either a hemp filter into that to filter your coffee down through it, or you can use the ones that are disposable and just throw them into a compost bin if that's what you have accessible to you. Then we have just something as simple as our old-fashioned drip coffee pot maker. And then if we don't want to make that much coffee at a time and we have a Keurig, they do sell reusable K-cups. So we can buy our coffee in bulk and in some kind of packaging that we can hopefully recycle or compost, fill up our K-cup, rinse it when we're done. Easy enough. If we have a little bit more time, we can use a French press, or we can use a mocha pot, which we'll just use on the stove pot with water and coffee grounds, whatever works for your lifestyle. And then as far as tea goes, I like to use these metal tea strainers. They're awesome. I just buy my tea in bulk, dump however much I want into the tea ball. So then it's nice because if I want my tea to be a little bit less flavorful or more flavorful, it's up to me. And they make fun ones. So I put the dinosaur one on the bottom for people who are looking to get a little funky. And I see, oh, different. Okay, thank you. Thanks, Hannah, for the comments on the different brands that you like. I don't think I have all these listed, so I'll add them to my sheet. Thank you. And then we have food preservation. So food preservation is really important because we're not always going to eat all our food at once. I have almost all of these different things in my kitchen. So from personal experience, I talked about Stasher a bunch. I showed you guys, and they make different size containers. So this one is like the sandwich bag, but then they make some that are snack bag size. It's like half the size. Then they make some that stand upright, and they just make really large ones that you can fit like larger fruits and vegetables in. Those are awesome for keeping your food fresh if you're not going to eat the rest of it. Up in this top left corner is a company called Zip Top. Their whole spiel is that all of their products are made so that you don't have to worry about having a lid. You just zip it closed by adding pressure to it, and then they all stand upright, which is great. So if we want to throw leftover pasta sauce into one of them, we don't have to worry about it tipping over. But then you can use something as simple as just glass jars in your house or Tupperware. So it doesn't have to be beautiful glass Tupperware. If we have things that already work for us that's made of plastic, continue to use those. Don't just dump them. Then we're just adding to the waste stream. Use what works for you. On the bottom left, we have silicone lids. So different companies make different size lids that you can just put over a bowl or a cup. And that's an easy way in case we lost some of our older lids. And then in the bottom right corner, we have something called beeswrap. So there's a few different brands that make this, but what it is basically just kind of like an organic material. So maybe it's cotton, and they kind of coat it in usually jojoba oil and some type of beeswax. And what you do is you take that, warm it up in your hand, and then you would wrap it around whatever food product you're preserving. So if it's like an avocado or half a lemon, anything along those lines. And then when you clean it, you want to clean it with colder water and soap. If you use too hot of water, it's going to take that layer off of it and it won't last as long. We have these, they work fairly well. It definitely takes more effort. It's not my favorite, but if I'm trying to avoid using plastic wrap or aluminum foil, it is a good option. So then we have cleaning. When it comes to cleaning, there are a whole number of different things that we do. So between the actual materials that we use, the chemicals, all of that. So for instance, in the picture on the top left, we can just kind of see few different brushes made from either like bamboo or just things that are compostable. So at the end of its life, when it is no longer able to be used anymore, we can throw it into a compost bin. But if you have things that work for you right now, don't just throw them away just to buy new things. Like I said, we can use old rags, t-shirts, anything along those lines. I've heard that people who buy just bar rags, they work great for soaking up messes. And then there's even a company that makes something called unpaper towels. So you can avoid paper towels, and you can even wrap them around a paper towel roll to kind of give you the feel of using it if you're trying to get used to not using paper towels. Um, as far as cleaning substances go, what we can do is there are a few different companies that have come out. So bottom right corner, this one's called Blue Land. They were actually on Shark Tank. And what they do is you can order either this whole kit where they'll send you the bottle and the tablets. So the bottles can be labeled based upon what you're going to be using them for. And then they'll just sell you tablets and little pieces of paper, and you drop it into water and it'll turn that into whatever cleaning solution it is that you need it for. So an all-purpose cleaner, maybe a glass cleaner. And then we don't have to worry about continuously buying new spray bottles and getting rid of old ones. So that company, and then Clean Colt, same thing, same concept. But then there's other companies that will just sell the tablets that you could drop into any kind of jar. So if in this top right corner, we see a mason jar with an attachment to it that turns it into a pump. So we have those in my house. They're nicer to look at too in your kitchen and your bathroom if that's important to you. Just drop a tablet in and you can make your water into soap. And then also I've seen people that have made their own Lysol wipes. So they'll get a container, and what they'll do is drop a bunch of rags or cut up t-shirts into it, and then make a solution made out of pretty much isopropyl alcohol, hydrogen peroxide, and maybe some kind of essential oil and water. And then it kind of soaks in that substance, and you pull those rags, t-shirts, whatever it is, out as you need them to wipe your surfaces down. And it works pretty darn well. You just have to throw them into the wash when you're done. So it's helpful to have a lot of them and then throw them all into the wash, have a basket maybe in your kitchen somewhere so you can get them off the clean countertop. I think that's, and then as far as like cleaning products go, we can also use like loofah sponges, steel wool around our kitchen when we're cleaning things in the sink. Okay, so we're gonna go back to home now. So that kind of covers the majority of things that we're gonna use around the house. Obviously not everything. And I don't touch on like makeup products because there are a lot of different options out there, and Etsy is a great place to look for different sustainable makeup products, whether you're looking to avoid chemicals or you just want to use makeup products that come in packaging that's recyclable or compostable or refillable. So Etsy is always a great option. So now we're going to talk about a company called TerraCycle. TerraCycle is awesome. They started, I think, roughly back in 2001. And what they used to do is they sold fertilizer in like recycled plastic bottles or upcycled plastic bottles. But now they have morphed into a much larger company. So their headquarters is in Trenton. And what they do is they offer different recycling programs for hard to recycle items. So I actually forgot to bring my jar down, but in my bathroom upstairs, I have a really large mason jar that's full of my contact lens cases. So I wear daily contact lenses, and that's really wasteful. Every day I have to open up a new pair of contacts, and that's, one for each eye. So instead of throwing those in the garbage each day, I collect them in a jar, in a box, whatever the heck you want to do. And then I signed up for their contact lens recycling program. And you can either ship them in, they'll give you a mailing label, or ship it for free. And they'll melt that down, turn it into a different product. Or you can find a location near you and drop it off. So typically when I'm on my way to a grocery store, I pass the eye doctor that allows me to drop it off, and I'll just stop by real quick, drop off my lenses once I have a lot of them. So I wait a few months at a time. but that's just one thing. They do it for a lot of different options. So like if you're continually using like disposable razors, they have a program for that. And all of these programs are paid for by big name brands. So it's kind of like a way for companies like Venus or Pantene to make steps to being a more sustainable company and taking responsibility for all the trash that they're putting out there. So some of these programs fill up and you have to kind of join a waiting list. But once it's available, it is a great option if you're unable to switch away from something that you really like to use. But then if you, cannot sign up for this program or this isn't something that you're interested in, they also have something called Loop. So Loop is a newer program. It's not available everywhere, but it should be available kind of on the East Coast in the United States. And how this works is you would go and buy your products online. So say you still want to use, so we'll just look at the picture right here. We want to still buy Tropicana orange juice. We still want to buy our Pantene shampoo and conditioner. And we still want to buy like detergent pods. So because we cannot switch away from those, we like them, we're used to them, you can sign up for Loop and you go online, shop for these products. They will come to you in this kind of square tote, separated, and they will come in durable, reusable containers. So you'll use all of that product, your orange juice, your shampoo, your conditioner, then you'll put those bottles back into the tote there, ship it back, they'll refill it and send it back to you. So don't even worry about cleaning them out. That's what they do. They sanitize them, they clean them out, and then they refill it based upon if you sign up, say like every month you need it refilled, or you want to just not have it on auto, do it yourself. The only thing is with this program, you pay a little bit more upfront for the actual container because it's like a more durable container that you're not tossing. And then from then on, you just pay for the actual product itself. So this is a good option if there's something you cannot switch away from and you don't have to leave your house. And then we're going to go into greenwashing for just a moment, and then I'll talk a little bit about how we can take action, and then we'll be done for today. So greenwashing, I always like to talk about because it's really important and people don't always realize how we're being greenwashed. So for instance, in this cartoon you see here, this guy's saying like, I don't use straws anymore. Straws are bad for the environment, while he's tossing a bunch of other crap onto the ground / into a trash can possibly. So that's a good example. We've focused so much on straws, but then it's like, oh wait, the whole cup is plastic. So people just kind of ignore that fact. It's kind of like when a magician is trying to make a coin appear from behind your ear, so they make you look at something else. So we are so focused on the straw that all these other things kind of slip our mind. So what we want to do is take a look at the bigger picture. Hey, the straw is plastic. Yes, we don't necessarily need it, but hey, the whole cup is plastic. So how can we avoid the whole cup? We can, bring our reusable mugs. But then if we look at this picture on the left of the green cutlery, a lot of places will sell things now that are made from like bioplastics or something. And they'll say that, oh, this is compostable. How wonderful. But what actually happens is there's a lot of different terms that people use when they are greenwashing. And if we don't really understand also what greenwashing is, it's just when a company tries to portray its services or its products as more environmentally friendly than they actually are for the sake of marketing. So terms that they'll use are degradable. So you might see like a bag of chips that says this bag is degradable. All that really means is it's going to eventually break up into smaller and smaller pieces of chip bag. It's not going to go away. It's just going to break into smaller pieces. Then we have the term biodegradable. So this is an item's ability to break down and go back to nature. So it's going to need heat, moisture, oxygen, but there's also no time reference on how long it could take. So like I said, that chip bag, maybe the chip bag's biodegradable now, but when we really look into it, it would take roughly 2 years for that chip bag to break down. Still better than being completely unbiodegradable, but not the best. So it's still a way of greenwashing. And then lastly, we have compostable. So for instance, this cutlery right here is compostable. But unfortunately, in order for this to compost, we would need to bring it to an industrial composter or like a commercial composter, which those are not convenient. Who's doing that? It can already be a task in itself to just compost at your house. So we are thinking we can just throw this into our backyard compost, but you can't. You have to bring it to a facility where they use like extreme heat so that it breaks down. And then even when we do that, like, do we really want that item in our compost? Do we want to use it in our soil, in our gardens? It's still a type of plastic that's breaking down. So personally, I don't want that in mine. So it's still not a great option. So then those are just a few different ways that companies will greenwash. But then when we talk about fast fashion, we'll zoom in right here. So this guy has a show on Netflix called The Patriot Act. And so his name is Hassan Minhaj. And he does a whole episode about fast fashion. He brings a lot of comedy into it, as you can see from his quote here. We want the feeling of luxury without paying full price. We want to look expensive-ish. So there's a lot of companies that will make copies of more expensive products. So maybe there's like a Chanel bag that's $1,000 and a company will make one that looks like it, but it'll be made from not as great materials. It won't last as long and anything along those lines. So there's two companies, for instance, that have like green lines. H&M is one. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of H&M. They're in like every mall. And then Zara is another. So H&M has a line called Conscious. And what they say is that you can bring all the clothes that you do not want to our store, donate them to us, and then we're going to give you a coupon to buy new clothes at our store. So like 10% off, 20% off. So you're like, that is wonderful. I'm going to bring all these clothes that I'm super over to your store, dump it in that bin, and then I'm going to use this coupon and buy different clothes. But unfortunately, most clothes made through H&M are not meant to last long. They're not made from great materials. So you're just buying more clothes that you're going to cycle through pretty quickly. And when you look into the really lengthy report that they put out about what happens to the clothes that you donate, which is what he did in his show, they actually send a lot of it to like third world countries, and they receive so much because we go through so many clothes and trends and fashion that they just burn it. They cannot handle all of our donated clothes. So a lot of these places, there's nothing great that's happening with it. So we can definitely still buy things from these companies, but what we want to do is buy less clothes, buy clothes that are made more sustainably, buy clothes that are going to last longer, wear them longer, try and buy pieces that aren't super trendy so that they'll be, they'll stand the test of time so that you can wear them throughout the years and they won't be out of style. So that way we can avoid things like this. And then when we are actually done with them, if they're still good to use, but we just don't want to wear them anymore, you can sell them on one of plenty of apps that they have available. There are so many. You can go right on Facebook Marketplace and sell it. There's apps like Poshmark, Depop, any of them, and you can make money. Or you can donate it to somewhere local that you know the clothes are actually going to be used. Or maybe the materials will be torn apart and used in something else. So it just takes a little bit of research. Then lastly, is along the lines of kind of clothes, I like to talk about microfibers. So microfibers are something that has been talked about a little bit more recently. When we wear clothes that are made from synthetic materials like nylon, polyester, anything along those lines, every time we wash them, tiny, tiny fibers are coming off of them and they're being washed away into our water systems. So eventually the ocean. These fibers are so tiny that they cannot be caught most of the time by treatment plants. So they're still going to make their way into the ocean. And then creatures like fish are going to eat them. And then larger creatures that eat those fish. So it's going to bioaccumulate. So say those fish eat those little fibers, and then we go ahead and eat those fish. We are then digesting plastic in some way. And there have been different studies and articles that have put out that apparently we can be possibly eating up to eating or drinking a credit card's worth of plastic per week, which is disgusting to hear. Nobody wants plastic in their body. So what we can do is there's 2 different products here that we could potentially buy to help out, because a lot of people, they like to work out, they wear workout clothes, those are made from synthetic materials. This thing on the left is called a Cora ball. We could buy that, and what it's meant to do is catch fibers that come off of your clothes so that they don't go into the waterways. So you would kind of throw it into the washing machine. And the other thing is called a guppy bag. You would put your clothes that are made synthetically into that bag, and then the bag would catch those fibers. And I'll type the name of that in the chat. It's a Cora ball. So either of those are options, but another way to just avoid that in general is just to buy clothes that are made from more natural materials like cotton, silk, wool, anything along those lines. And then if we do have clothes that are synthetic, try and wash them less if we are able to, so that way we have less of these fibers going into our waterways. We're going to zoom back out to our iceberg here and go up to the top so that we can talk a little bit about taking action. So there are plenty of ways that we can take action, and I talked about a few of them prior. So for instance, we can, if we want to get involved ourselves, we can join our town's local environmental commission or committee, whatever the name of it is. Most towns do have one. But if you don't want to become that involved and actually be on the committee, you can just speak with committee members about passing bans and bills, banning plastic bags, styrofoam containers, anything along those lines. So that's kind of helpful to bridge the gap between talking to our local government, because it can be a little daunting. But if we want to go right for it, we can speak to our governments about putting bills and bans in place. We can join our local nonprofits that are fighting for issues like this. So for instance, the American Littoral Society is a membership-based organization. So every time people join our organization, we have more people behind us that are backing us up, supporting what we do. We can also start our own petitions and start our own kind of environmental groups within our area. We can encourage our friends to become aware of these issues and kind of help inform people. But like I said, always be encouraging. So those are just a few number of ways. And sometimes we run workshops where we even talk about ways to get involved and speak with our local government. So keep an eye out for workshops like that we run, kind of like we'll talk about grassroots advocacy. But then I'll go to my last slide. And I'm just going to say thank you to everyone for watching today. So if you would like to follow us on social media, our handle is pretty much at Littoral Society on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And then I hope that you all do real well on your journey to lessening your waste, whether it's plastic or just waste in general. Feel free to email me with any questions that you have after the fact, or anything that you found that works for you that maybe isn't on the Excel sheet that I'm going to send to everybody. But thank you all for listening.
Nicole, do you have a program for large apartment buildings, especially dealing with food waste?
So there is, I don't think I touched on it, so I apologize for that, but there is a company called Unwaste. I'll write it in the chat. And they will take your compost away. So yeah, if you're living in an apartment building.
I know, but I haven't been able to get the board to even consider how we would go about setting that up. And that's what I'm curious about, because I haven't been able to find any organization that actually helps large apartment buildings, not little ones, set up, some kind of program. We recycle plastic, but
Okay. I'm not fully aware of any kind of company or organization right now that helps large apartment buildings get set up with composting, but at least on an individual basis, like I said, there's companies that will take it away. So they'll supply you with the bin that you need, and then they'll take it to a compost facility or a farm or anything along those lines. But I'll look into to see kind of what options there are to get apartment buildings set up for that.
I mean, New York is doing some for houses, but that's not really the problem. It's the large buildings that need some kind of program.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree, especially because when you live in a building like that and you don't have a backyard, it's not something that you
Right.
want.
There's no place to put a compost bin,
No, I agree. So yeah, I'll look into that and see kind of what the options are, and then I can email out to everyone anything that I find.
That would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. So if anybody else has questions, feel free to ask. Otherwise, I thank you all for watching today and hope you learned a lot. Hope you enjoyed and hope everybody becomes a member. So bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nicole, let me ask you a quick question. I know everybody's signing out. I live in a co-op, and until I transition out of recycling all this stuff, in the very beginning, you mentioned the codes on the recycling plastic.
Mhm.
They have, I think they once told us if we don't, I know that you said only like 1 and 2 actually get recycled. The others don't get recycled. They just get tossed, I guess. And so I think they once had some kind of thing that they get a penalty or the city fines them if they find plastic containers, not in the recyclable bin, but just in the regular trash. So how do you deal with something like that? I mean, it's a, cumbersome type of area. I just throw, I know eventually I'll maybe transition out of it, but I still have a lot of plastic that I recycle. It's a, co-op type of situation. What do you suggest? Something like that? Do they still fine? There's a city, I live in New York City. Do they still fine apartment buildings that, go ahead, I'm sorry.
So you're asking if places like still fine if you put unrecyclable plastic in your recycling?
Yeah. I mean,
Um,
I don't know what to do with it. I have, still plastic that I use, and I want to try. I've been thinking that it gets recycled, and I know that not everything does get recycled, but
right.
supposedly you have to throw everything in this special, place. Like we bring it down to our lobby, and they put it in a recyclable, bin, and it's a lot of things that I'm sure, like you said, it complicates everything because it doesn't all get recycled. So it's kind of a gray area, but it's complicated.
Right. I mean, the best bet when you are unsure, like I said, is, if you're unsure, put it into the trash. But then as far as trying to get the other items to be recycled, like, is that what you are looking for, or you're looking to kind of stop the fine from happening?
Yeah, I think if I put the plastic in the regular trash, this was about 2 years ago. I remember they said that the city will fine us if they see plastic in the regular trash or cans, or anything that they said you should recycle.
Gotcha. I see, Zach, you have you have your hand.
Hi, William. My name is Zach. I was just listening. So I've heard of here in New Jersey, a couple different towns that have taken an approach that seemed to have pretty good feedback, where they would actually go around with a small team with their recycling guys, and they would take a very quick audit of the recycling that they were picking up. And so at quick glance, if they saw things in there that didn't belong, they would have a program with a couple different methods to reach the people that were contaminating by putting the wrong products in. So first would be a warning with like a sticker, like a label that they would put on the trash can or the recycling bin, which would say, we didn't take, or we took it, but we saw that there was some contamination that you need to work on. And if they saw it again, then they would end up leaving the recycling at the house and leave a note, a paper that they would fill out very quickly with, here's what we saw, here's what's not allowed to be in there, and here's how you can improve upon that and why it's an issue. They actually saw a lot of feedback from people changing their habits when they were told, you know, what's not being taken, and more importantly, when they saw that their recycling and trash wasn't being taken, they were very much so willing to change that. And I don't know if that's super helpful for you in New York City. I just know that that's something that town by town, you know, a variety of different towns, but all individually municipal level are doing to try and work on the contamination that they're seeing in the recycling here.
Yeah, you gave me an idea. You know, since I live in a co-op, we have a board and a management company and the whole 9 yards. So what I'll do after this webinar is I'll talk to them actually and see what their new policy is, because this, like I said, was years ago that I remember this kind of warning about stuff. So things have probably been updated since then. So I'll discuss it with them, because maybe they should put out a notice of what
Yeah.
actually needs to be put in the, you know, bin.
Yeah, that'd be
because-
great. And I know, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel. There's a lot of great resources online of already established programs
Yeah.
or initiatives that have those stickers, those papers you can fill out, something like that, you know, like I said, so you could just use that as a basis for them to work off of.
Yeah, you broke up a little bit with the Zoom, but I appreciate what
Sorry.
you're trying to do. Well, it's not your fault. It's just unstable, you know, internet connections,
Right.
which I get all too frequently.
Sure.
Anyway, I appreciate what you guys are trying to do. You know, like you said, you can't do it all at once. It's like a very small steps, you know, towards. I bring my compost, for example, over to we have something called Big Reuse, I think it's called. So there's a place in Astoria that I live here in New York City. So 2 or 3 times a week, I just bring my compost material, my scraps and everything over to